we were looking to do is, did anybody watch the Coffee Talks on Sunday mornings? All right, hey, we like to sit on the couch and chat on our YouTube channel. We were hoping to kind of make this, but obviously we didn't get a couch. So pretend that we're sitting on a couch in our pajamas, having a nice weekend chat. It's a little late for coffee, so we got work. Okay, we're talking.
Before we get started, I want you all to help remind me keto, bro.
So you're going to hear some things that we talk about that you've already heard today. Some of the talks from earlier hit some of these points you're going to hear. A lot of good stuff. So hopefully this kind of reinforces some of those things and helps you figure out where you are and what things you can do to tweak how you're going to finish it.
So when you do keto, bro, think about it like this. For one, it comes from the a little phrase in the fitness industry, do you even lift, bro? And it's basically you're looking at someone and they don't look like they have any muscle. And so you're like, dude, do you even lift? Do you even lift weights? So that from that angle, do you even keto, bro? But also, do you? That's how it started. Do you? Do your version of keto, and that's really what we're doing today. Find your keto.
Yeah, find your keto. That's great. And before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the keto. So does that change? All right. It's matches that. Okay.
Oh, good.
Right, so a little bit about me real quick first. I started my journey in my mid-30s, mid to late 30s, about 250 pounds. Not really happy with life, a lot of gut issues, IBS, urgent bowels, things like that. And through a process, a long process, it did not happen overnight. It took 8-10 years to find the combination of the things that I needed to get where I am today. Okay, it took years to get where I am today. Now I had been here, and this is what we're going to talk about. We talked about on the first slide, right? How do we make it work for a long time? Let's say that once and for all. That's what we're looking at. So it's not just how do I lose weight? How do I lose it, keep it off? How do I go from weight loss to I'm also off medication to I'm also able to do more things physically in my life. I can engage in activities. I don't have to say no because I can't. I can say I'll try because I can't. That's what it's about.
Yeah. So, you see both of our befores on there. Hiding on the beach. I was hiding. You were not hiding until you saw that picture.
Well, it's funny you say that because how many people avoid pictures? Or have avoided pictures in the past? When I look back and try to find pictures of what I used to look like, I found 2.
Yeah. I read a lot of before and afters because there weren't a lot of befores.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking the picture back then. I used the camera. And now, as you can imagine, I just love to do this. So I always like to say at the beginning of all my talks, I didn't pop out of the womb of the clean pro, but I became one in my mid to late 30s. So my journey started just before I turned 30. I was 20 and a half-ish. I was looking at my 30th birthday. I was about 30 pounds-ish overweight. For me, I'm only 4'11" and 3/4. I claim 5 feet. So 30 pounds overweight on my body was a third of my body weight at that point in time. So it started with weight loss. It started with nutrition for me. For him, it started with fitness, and then he found the nutrition side. For me, it was about my health first, way before it was ever about what I looked like, way before I ever focused on weight loss. And really, what was so beautiful about my journey, what I would love for most of you, is that it's not a weight loss goal. I called it, weight loss for me was a happy side effect. Because I was chronically ill in my 20s. I was in a much worse shape in my 20s than I am in my 40s. I just turned 41. And I'm now competing as a professional bikini competitor at the I'll be on my next show in 5 weeks. 5 weeks out, we'll be flying down to Mexico to do my pro debut in a new federation. And I'm I'm going for a championship title and I'm not stopping until I get it. I don't care if I'm 50 or 60 before that happens. I'm not stopping. I'm not getting worse as I get older. I'm not getting sicker and fatter as I get older. And we do not have to. Okay?
That was our talk. So the whole idea, like Natalie said at the beginning, is do you, right? Do you to the best that you can do you. And part of that is what you're doing right now working for you? This is something we were talking about on the way up here, because I have a lot of emotion around seeing people succeed. And my challenge as a coach is often letting people set their own goals for where they want to be and being okay with that, even though I can see that you can do more. That is hard. That is very, very hard. Okay? Especially for me, who's very A-type and just wants to get things done. Right? So, understanding that your goals are for you to set, and you are the only person that can determine if what you're doing is going to work or not. There's a piece that comes with that. That means it is your responsibility to try things until they work. Don't marry anything because so-and-so said this. Don't do it this way just because so-and-so said that's the way to do it. Try it. Write it down. Did that work? Nope, that didn't work. Okay, then it's not for you. Right? It's not working, it's not for you.
And defining what working means. So you can start with that. Whenever I get a new client, one of the first questions is, okay, what will success look like? So a lot of the time we get married to the scale going down. It's not working because I'm not seeing the number on the scale go down. But how about before you set some parameters, set some criteria? How will I know it's working? Let's define what working means for you.
And that goes, we may get into this a little bit, but that goes into a lot more than, like she said, the scale. There's impact, and think about it this way as we go through the rest of our talk is, what things are you looking to do to change your life realistically, practically, and how you engage in your environment and the things that you do every day? That's what this is about. This isn't about just one thing. This isn't about one medication. This isn't about one blood work marker. This isn't about one number on the scale. Right? Rachel showed a picture of her playing with a grandkid. Many people that come to us can't do that. Get on the floor and play with your grandkids. If all you're worried about is weight loss, how does that help your grandkid? What else is there? It's a big picture, guys. It's a very big picture. All right. Anybody ever felt like that? Stuck it. You're trying to get somewhere and you just can't figure out what's going on.
I'm stuck. You hear that all the time. It's one of the first things we see in every chat group, every community online. I'm stuck. Help.
I'm stalled. I'm at a plateau.
Plateaued.
We've all been there, right? Stuck, stalled, plateaued. So, what we're going to talk about in the next few slides is some of the things to look at to make sure we're understanding some of the concepts. You guys may have heard me talk about concepts, principles over protocols in the past. Concepts behind why the keto diet works is more important than how you do it. Okay? We often get stuck in the how, forget about the why it's working in the first place. Right? We get stuck into trying to understand the gears and springs of a clock instead of just realizing all I got to do is tell time. That's what we're looking at.
Thank you so much, Ari. I have some ethical bribes for you all, for those who participate here today. Thank you for having me back, Autumn and Richard. Give her a big round of applause. You did a lot. Yep. I was here 2 years ago. How many of you were here 2 years ago as well? How many of you have been to all? It's 4 times, right? This is the 4th year?
This is the 5th year.
The 5th year. How many of you have been to all 5? Wow, give them a big round of applause. That's impressive. full lecture here. I guarantee you, I have the most slides than any speaker here. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Hopefully it's a good thing. The speakers here are incredible. I've been learning a lot personally. I'm excited to go through these slides, and I'm happy to give you all the slides so you don't have to get arm fatigue taking a photo of all of them. If you just email support@ketocamp.com, that's camp with a K, support@ketocamp.com, and just say Keto Palooza 2024 slides, we'll give you the whole slide deck. So let's get into the presentation. 3 secrets to using ketosis to restore the metabolism, lower inflammation, burn fat. All that sounds pretty good, right? I want to do that as well. So I'm going to get into this, and this is going to be some principles that I've extracted from research on I have a new book coming out next year, which I'll talk about. And the best part of the presentation is the 3rd secret. So if you're going to go to the restroom and come back, just make sure you're here for that 3rd secret. I promise you, if you can just nail that one, everything else will fall into place. And I love what you guys just did before this, the visualization and goals. So important. I mean, there's not a lot of conferences that do that. And those of you who leaned into that, actually put your goals down and visualize it manifesting, it's just a matter of time before it happens. So when you believe in God and the universe, God and the universe works to make it happen for you. It's a universal law. What you put your energy into expands. And I can tell you, when I talk about goals and affirmations, it goes over some people's heads and they think it's like silly and woo-woo, especially the left-brain people. And by the way, speaking of which, left-brain people are all about the numbers, the analytics, the facts, and the figures. Right-brain people are more creative visualization. How many of you are more left-brain? Give me the facts and the figures. Okay. And then right-brain? Interesting. It's about a little bit more left-brain than right-brain. So the left-brain, you struggle more with the visualization, the goals, the affirmations. But once you get it, you really get it. That's the best part. And I write down my goals, by the way. I carry a goal card, and I didn't know you were doing the workshop, by the way, but I carry my goal card. I have 2 of them. These are the goals I want to hit in 2025, and I write it in the present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now that, and I have the goal written. So I keep it in front of me. I'm building new brain cells looking at this, using my senses every time I look at my goals. So I recommend keeping your goals in front of you. I wasn't planning on sharing that, but it came right after the presentation of your visualization. So let's get into the presentation. You saw a little bit of the video I shared. I used to be obese. Some of you know my story, some of you do not. This is in 2007. I weighed 250 pounds, 34% body fat. Of course, I was physically obese, but what you don't see in these photos is the mental obesity that was happening in my life. I was depressed, I was suicidal. I was on the internet looking for ways to end my life. I was just tired of living and being in pain every day, so bad that I would have to call friends over just to be around me, because every time I was alone, I was looking for ways to end my life. I had food addiction, sugar addiction, going to fast food restaurants, and I carried the weight well, 6'2", pretty tall, but I was actually classified as being obese. And what's interesting is that somebody left a podcast review the other day saying, there's no way you were 250 pounds, 200 pounds max, and he said, I'm out. This is false advertisement. But I can tell you, I was physically obese, but even worse, mentally obese. And those are some photos. So here are some of the things I was dealing with. This is in 2008. Broken metabolism, physical and mental obesity, prediabetes, high blood pressure, and metabolic syndrome. And like many of us, we look for answers with our conventional doctors. We're telling them what's wrong with us. And we're trying to find some solutions from our doctors or conventional doctors. But they didn't have anything for me but a prescription and maybe a fad diet or eat less and move more. They essentially thought I was going crazy, 23, 24-year-old man. There's no way that you're dealing with all this stuff, but I was. And at my 23rd birthday here, I'm smiling, but I was really depressed and I was ready to just check out. The only reason why I didn't check out and take my life is because I kept thinking about my mother. I didn't want to leave that devastation for my mother. She was and still is my superhero. So I didn't take my life because I kept thinking about the pain my mom would have to deal with. It's the only thing that kept me around. Then I got into this guy's work. I didn't even know this guy right here. Anybody know him? Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer. And it started with a mental shift before it turned into a physical shift. And I believe 95% of our success is from our mental shift versus anything else. But he would say things like, hey, people are the cause of your problems, and I was blaming everybody for my problems, and he said, if other people were the cause of your problems, you would have to hire a psychiatrist for the rest of the world in order for you to get better. I'm like, damn, that's true. Right? So that means taking ownership and responsibility. Stop playing the victim card. And I was definitely playing the victim card. Of course I'm obese and diabetic. My dad's diabetic and I have his genes. Right? That's the victim mentality. He would also say things like, hey, what happens when you squeeze an orange? What comes out? What happens when you squeeze an orange? What comes out? Orange juice, right? Obviously, but why? Because that's what's inside. What happens when life squeezes you and applies pressure? What comes out is what's inside. It's your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. So life was squeezing me, and what was coming out was resentment and hate and a victim mindset. I realized if I could change what's inside, then when I'm squeezed, what comes out is actually positivity, abundance, faith, whatever those positive words are. And he helped me understand this word, responsible. Responsibility, that's our ability to respond to life. And when you take responsibility, at least when I took responsibility, the second that I took responsibility was the second I stopped being the victim of my history, and I immediately became the victor of my destiny, and everything changed for me. So what I want to do with all of you today, I want to shout these three words out together with you. I am responsible, so we can all take ownership together. So on the count of three, let's say these three words out loud. 1, 2, 3. I am responsible. Feels good, right? Whenever you feel like life is applying pressure, keep reminding yourself, I am responsible. 9 months later, after taking responsibility, I went from 250 pounds to 170 pounds, 34% body fat to as low as 6% body fat. And what you don't see there is the mental transformation that occurred. Let me go back a second. What you don't see is how it changed the way I thought and processed the challenges in my life, how the depression started to go away, the food addiction started to go away. And I believe this, and this might be controversial, I don't necessarily think we have an obesity problem because of what people are eating. I think most of the time it's because of what is eating people, meaning they're not dealing with the stuff that's coming up in their life, meaning they're playing the victim card. They're not living on purpose with their purpose. They're filling a void. That's what I mean by what's eating people. And there's a great quote from a guy named Robert Heinlein. And he said, one of my all-time favorite quotes, by the way, he said, in the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. It's a long one to write down, but just Google it, Robert Heinlein quote. What that means, daily trivia, that's food addiction, other addictions, bad behaviors in your life, bad toxic people in your life. These are things that when we are not clear on our goals, we become strangely loyal to these things. And I was myself. I was addicted to food, toxic relationships, drugs. But when I got clear on my purpose, I didn't have time for that. And you know what? The addictions became a superpower. We put a lot of energy into our addictions, don't we? Imagine if you could transfer and harness that energy into something great. That's what I did the last 17 years when you're clear on your purpose. Now, I get to educate and speak on stage, and I'm really passionate about teaching about metabolic health and where keto applies there. Our mission is to educate 1 billion people. I have 4 books that are all Amazon bestsellers, and then I have a new book coming out in June 2025, which is a published book with Hay House called Metabolic Freedom. And you know what's interesting? That gentleman, Wayne Dyer, that I mentioned just a few slides ago, he was a Hay House published author. He saved my life. And I'm now a Hay House published author. So it's pretty cool how things just kind of reach full circle. Thank you. I see the clock. Thank you so much. So when that book comes out, it's going to be at airports, Audible, all the bookstores. I'm excited for it. But here's the thing. I'm really not special, meaning I just figured out the combination to the code, meaning the metabolism. When you have the combination to a code, it doesn't really matter what your circumstances are, where you live, your gender, your age, your health history, or your history in general. You unlock the code, right? So today is all about 3 principles to unlocking that metabolic code. I want to start right here. Here are the stats according to the CDC and cancer.org. 1 in 3 women are diagnosed with cancer within their lifetime, men 1 in 2. 60% of Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. I would put money on it that it's a lot higher. People are not testing, they don't know what their A1Cs are or fasting blood sugars, but let's say 60%. By 2032, they're predicting that 1 in 2 children are going to be born on the autism spectrum. Person dies from heart disease every 33 seconds. That's about 695,000 people every single year. #1 killer in the United States and most first world countries. This study, most of you know this study, but it showed that the United States population, only 12% of the people in the US are what they consider metabolically healthy. In other words, 88% of American adults are metabolically unhealthy.